Hi everyone, I'm Tristan Morrison. It's great to be here with Elevate and Neil. I'm super excited to have the opportunity to share some haircutting with you guys. We have a really great salon-friendly, beautiful, disconnected bob. Just to start off here, again, I'm Tristan Morrison. I've been doing hair for about 24 years now, and I've been working with Aveda Canada for the last 18 years. I'm in my salon today at Morrison & Co. This is the look that we're going to be going for. You can see a couple variations. Here's one on the blonde, and then here's a little bit more worn one on the brunette. And here's the sectioning pattern that we're going to be working with. So for interested time, I've sectioned off the mannequin head. What I've done is I've taken a horseshoe section along the parietal ridge with a vertical section just down the center back, and then a diagonal section. I'm going to be graduating the back. Now I'm left-handed, and I'm going to start the haircut on the right side. If you're following along and you're right-handed, you're going to start on the left side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that bottom area that's already been cut in as my length, and I'm going to use the points of my scissors, and I really don't want to have the consistency with the line being perfect here. I'm looking for something that's a little bit more serrated. Now, this takes a little bit more time, but I think the end result for people that are wearing their hair with that natural wave just is a little bit softer and more diffused. So my next section is going to be over-directed to the previously cut section. I want to make sure that my fingertips are pointing up, and then I'm using the points of my scissors. So just moving along. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to type them in, and we'll do our best to address them.
Peter Gray has said, howdy T.
Hey Peter, how's it going?
And hi Joe. Hi Peter.
Well, it's great to see that some of my friends and colleagues are tuning in. Peter is one of them, so really appreciate that. Working with a diagonal section to the center, kind of over-directing just to the previously cut hair. So I'm using the points of my scissors, and again, like when you're pointing into the pads, what you want to make sure is that you're pointing on the way out. I'm not looking for a perfectly clean line. I'm looking for a little bit more of a serrated line. So just going in, pointing. From a cross-check standpoint, what you're going to notice is you're going to get something that sits from shorter in the back to longer towards the front. So from a standpoint, if you're looking to see what it's supposed to look like when you cross-check, this is what your line will sit like, okay? And it's getting slightly longer towards the front, so this is gonna have a little bit more weight or length, if you will, left in the front. So this last section is being over-directed into the previously cut section. So I'm over-directing 5 into 4. I'm not worried about keeping intact the outline where the hairline rounds up. So then again, just going through and cross-checking and looking for something that's shorter or longer. I've got a little bit right here I'm just going to point out. And again, the line's been pointed. So if you're just joining us, my name is Tristan Morrison. I work with Aveda in Canada. I'm here at Morrison & Co., my salon and my partner salon. We're going to be doing a lovely bob that's disconnected today. This is the kind of finished result of what we're going for. So something that sits like this. This is a little bit kind of less wavy one, same idea. And here's the sectioning pattern that we just executed. So you can see there's a horseshoe section here, vertical down the center back, and then a diagonal here. We've just worked through, and we've worked through on this side here, and we've worked through, and we're going with vertical sections that are slightly diagonal and over-directing to the previously cut section. Okay, so let's get started on this other side now. So we're going to keep the hair damp, and now we're going to start on the other side. So if you are right-handed, you should have cut the left side first, and now you'll be working on the right side. Your fingertips are going to be pointing down, and I'm going to be using the points of my scissors. And again, I'm just closing them on the way out. Now to me, I still think this is precision cutting. I just think that the outcome has a little bit of softness to it. But the sectioning and the planning are what makes it a little bit more precise in my opinion. So I'm not just going through and cutting and see what happens. I have a clear idea with sectioning and pattern, and so the outcome is fairly concise. Now I love these textured looks that we're kind of like seeing on Instagram and getting to observe kind of what's happening in the world via Instagram. And I think you're seeing a little bit more of that diffused natural look, less of the flat iron curl. Like I said, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them in and we'll do our best to address them. Okay, so we're working on to the next section. And I'm really excited to be here on Elevate with my good friend Tatum, kind of asking me to come in and do some education. So shout out to the Elevate crew. And if you haven't had the opportunity to log on to any of their education, you should check it out because they have some really great, talented people that are interested in sharing their knowledge. And it's free. So just please check in and see what they have to offer.
So I just want to explain to Shalonda that we're using 2 phones here today. So she's telling me to hold the camera right, and having 2 is...
Sorry about that, guys. We're filming 2 simultaneously live events that are happening. One for Neocorp on their Facebook Live, and then one for Elevate. So we're doing our best here, and we don't like to leave the camera on a tripod. We like to kind of get in as close as possible. So I have my business partner and my wife doing the filming so that you can just kind of see a little bit more. So we have something like this sitting at the back now. And you can see it's just something that's a little bit tighter in here. It goes from shorter to longer. So if you think about it like this, if you think about that this is one length, this is graduation, 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 until I hit 90, at what point it turns into a layer. Now I'm dealing with the curvature of the head, so the head sits like this, so holding it like this, in natural sense, is holding it at 90, so I've got to exaggerate that a little bit to make sure that I do get a graduated edge on it. Okay.
Brandy DeVilliers is saying, double the Tristan, double the fun.
Thanks, Brandy. I hope you're staying safe wherever you're at. Okay, so I'm taking down the next panel. And what we're going to work on this next panel is a really great little exercise that I think is so much fun to use in the salon. And I think that the clients really appreciate it if it's done in the less extreme form. I think that if you're going to do it in the extreme form, then you've got to kind of slowly progress your clients there or have somebody that currently is seeking it out. What we're going to do is we're going to work with this connection. So quite simply put, is that this panel here is not going to have a relationship with this lower panel here. So it is going to be completely separate, and I'm going to get the guideline by creating a new guideline. So we're going to kind of be in this realm here. This is what I've created right now. So I've worked with graduation, over-directed it back so it got longer towards the front, which would sit under the Aveda language as triangle graduation. Then I'm going to come in and work a layer that's disconnected starting in the back and over-direct it to the previously cut section, so it will be a triangle layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand and we're going to start. If you're right-handed, you're going to start on the left side of the mannequin, and if you're left-handed, you're going to start on the right side. As you can see, I don't have a guide, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this first one out, and I'm going to cut it a bit long. And then I'm going to take a look at it, and you're going to see, this is what I've just cut. To me, that still seems a little bit heavy. For anybody that's new out there in their first 3 or 4 years, I find a lot of questions are, how do I know where to cut my guideline? And a lot of it's through trial and error. So if you're kind of not knowing exactly where to cut that guideline, cut it 3 or 4 times and kind of get it into the length that you want and take a little bit more time on it. So I'm going to do this one more time. And for those of you who just tuned in, I'm Tristan. It's really great to be here with you. Super happy to be educating with Elevate Hair and Neocorp and sharing what I love to share, which is how to take new ideas and translate them into salon-friendly work. And again, so I'm just working on this area here. The nice part about this is it starts to look like it's almost been graduated. Except it gives a lot more movement. That disconnection is going to give you way more movement. So I'm over directing to the previously cut hair. As I start to come in to the side here, what's going to happen is the hairline comes up, and so I'm going to have to start to change my elevation. So I've just cut the first one with my elevation and finger angle like this. The next one's the same, the next one's the same. The fourth one starts to come up higher. The fifth one, the finger angle gets a bit higher. The sixth one, a little bit higher, so that the perimeter drops out. And I'll show you what I mean by that.
Tracy's saying it's nice to see our faces.
No.
We miss her.
Miss you, Tracy. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so I'm going to use this back piece as my guideline. What you'll notice is this dropping out here is the perimeter. So again, you're pulling this section up. This is about the fourth or fifth section. Here's the perimeter dropping out. What I want to do is I want to use this back layer as my guide. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to use the points of my scissors. And I'm going to point that off. And that's going to drop out, and it's going to give me just that little bit of hair that I need to fill in where the hairline comes up. I'm going to continue working around to the front. I'm going to increase my finger angle to drop out more. So as I get to the front, I'm still only over directing to the previously cut section, but I'm changing the finger angle to increase it to be more of a concave. So finger angle coming up. And again, just pointing it through. Now this haircut's just a really great haircut for somebody that wants to take that one length lob that they have and add a little bit of a layer or graduation to it to give a little bit more of a wave. Really, this would be somebody coming in and saying, you know what, Tristan, I'm tired of flat iron waving my hair all the time. It doesn't get enough wave out from it when I leave it on its own. Is there something we can do, and I like the length? This would fit in that realm of perfect haircut. So increasing so that I'm working a concave. So a concave is essentially my finger angles cutting from short to long. When I cross-check this, I'm going to find that I get something that goes again from shorter at the back to longer at the front. And I'm just looking for any little areas that I might need to point out. Right there, a little bit of a leftover. And again, I want the work to be soft and fluid. So now I've got this beautiful bob. The whole kind of exercise on this, as far as technique that you might not be exercising in the salon, is disconnection, which is going to give a little bit more movement. Okay? But the client's not necessarily going to see that, and I don't need to necessarily tell the client, oh, I'm disconnecting your hair. Okay, if you have any questions, my name's Tristan. It's great to be here with everybody.
Ronnie's saying you're the man, Tristan.
Thanks. We've just come over. Just for anybody that's joining in, this is our sectioning pattern. We've taken this bottom area here, we've taken diagonal sections, we're over directing to the previously cut hair, and we're cutting an angle that's graduated like this. We're then taking down this middle panel here, we're taking it out, we're holding it at the center back, starting at about 90 degrees. It's disconnected, and it's going to work into a concave as I get to the side like this. The end result, remember what we're looking for, and my lovely ladies here, to have a nice loose wave that's more like air dried. Okay, so now you're going to be starting on the opposite side. So just to refresh, if you're right-handed, you would have cut the left side first. If you're left-handed, you would have cut the right side first. Remember, my first three sections are held out at 90 degrees to the head. Okay, so I want to get 90 degrees to the head. It's over directing to the previous. So 2 into 1, 3 into 2, 4 into 3, and so on and so forth. As I hit about the third to fourth section, depending on how big they are, I start to elevate up a little bit, and I'm going to use the points of my scissors, and I'm going to let the hair drop out. And please, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask away.
Jassy is loving how prepared you are for this education.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I really, this is really beneficial for me as well. Getting the opportunity to do a little bit of hair in such a crazy time where so many people are inside their houses, and I appreciate that you guys are all loving to do some hair when you have some downtime. And so, thanks a lot for tuning in, and all this support is really great. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to start to work into a concave. There's my guideline here, and I'm going to be pointing at top. Now I can check with my balance. Balance is feeling pretty good today. Okay, so I've worked around and I'm coming through. I'm working into my concave. Working up. Use the points of my scissors. And again, just pointing through and over-directing back. Now, as I over-direct back, I'm going to gain length towards the front. Now, the length is going to be gained in two ways. It's going to be gained in the perimeter because I'm over-directing and elevating up, and it's going to be gained in the whole weight of the haircut, sitting more so through this area here.
So there's a question, how do you cut near the ears?
So when I get through to this part here, so just behind the ear, I start to lift up, and just behind the ear, essentially I'm holding the hair to basically the same as the round of the head. As I get on top of the ear, I'm changing the finger angle and elevating up slightly more. So the finger angle above the ear is more of a concave, and you're letting the hair drop out that's underneath this area here to form your perimeter.
Why do you cut more than 90 degrees by the ears?
So the question being, why do I cut more than 90 degrees to the ears? So right here she's asking, or he's asking, where are my elevations coming up and why? If I cut it like this, it's going to cut a hole in the perimeter. So what I need to decide is how much elevation I need to have to drop out this perimeter. So I'm lifting away from what I want to keep. Okay. Thank you for such great questions. So now what I will have is the same thing as I did on the other side, is something that goes from shorter in the back to longer towards the front. So if this was to stand up on end, it would go like this and just form this imaginary triangle that looks like this. Well, that's what we have as far as our cross-check goes. So now, what I'm going to do is there's a little bit too much weight in the front here. And if you notice, in here, it's a little bit more slender. And so one of the things that I like to do is I like to come back through. A lot of my shapes that are longer in the front, I like to come back through and over direct forward. And so now I'm letting this perimeter drop out again. There's no guideline, and I'm going to point that excess length off, and I'm going to work towards the back now. And I'll explain as I'm going what that's going to do. What that's going to create, as I'm over directing towards the front, is it's going to create something that's pushing this way. So I've got hair that's pushing this way from the back, and hair that's pushing this way from the front. So it'll want to tuck, almost like a C, if you will, behind the ear. This is a really critical one that a lot of great hair cutters do. Now come back through and use forward over direction.
Would you advise the same elevation for curly hair?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how much elevation and over direction do you use, right? So that's what you're always thinking about when you're cutting hair. How high do I need to lift it? So when I lift hair, it's basically going to give me one length if I don't lift it at all. Anywhere between 1 and 89 degrees gives me graduation, which is a buildup of weight. When I hit 90 degrees, I get what's called a layer. The layering goes all the way up to 180 degrees. So how much I lift the hair is going to be directly affected by what texture it is. So if I lift curly hair as much as what I'm lifting this hair, there's going to be more curl that comes out of it. So you've got to gear how much you lift the hair based on what you think the curl is going to do when you let the hair go. And we all know the higher we lift hair and the more tension we put on it with curls, the more spring factor we get. So just be cautious on how much to elevate, and I would encourage you to play around with the elevation to get what you want.
Janae is asking, this wouldn't be good for someone who doesn't like their hair flipping out, correct? A blunt cut would be the way to go?
Yeah, so if you don't want like little nuances, like little flicks and curls like what you see in the pre-dones, this probably isn't going to be your best bet. Now in saying that, if you do it on finer hair that doesn't have curl, this dries beautiful and sits really soft at the edges and won't flick quite as much. But if you don't want it to flick at all, keep it into your lob family or your bob family, whatever you're calling it, wherever you're doing those types of haircuts. Going in, taking my diagonal sections, and again, working from that front area, just checking my balance and making sure that my balance is the same. Okay. I'm just working through. I'm over-directing the hair forward and lifting quite high. Just continuing to work. And I run out of hair usually when I hit just above the ear. So I tend to run out of hair right here, which that means that when you look at this, what happens is you've got shorter hair going this way and shorter hair going this way. And you can already start to see how when you have that, it starts to want to flick the hair kind of this way. Which again, I just think it's a really cool thing for people tucking their hair. They get this little flick out of it. And you've got to be after that. But I find that a lot of people right now want to wear their hair on the more natural side. We'll see where it goes. But this hair does look great when it's blow dried straight. It doesn't look as good when it's blow dried with a round brush. Sometimes I find when you have disconnection and round brushing, it almost looks like where you can see the disconnection because you give the volume. So it just depends what your client's after. If I have any more questions, please feel free to ask. I'm going to move on to the top, but first I'm going to recap. My name's Tristan. I'm here at Morrison & Co. I've been doing hair for 24 years. I started with Vidal Sassoon. I worked there for 6 years, and then the last 18 years I've worked with Veda, really helping develop their cutting curriculum. And today I'm really excited to get to share with Elevate and Neocore. So this is the haircut that we're going after, a loose disconnected bob. You can see it on blonde and you can see it on brown. Here's our sectioning pattern right over here. And you can see a horseshoe right here, vertical section down the center back, and then a diagonal. We came in here and we worked with diagonal sections using backward over direction, and we got graduation that's very similar to this. Our next panel, which is this center panel, we worked with a layer that's disconnected. We started in the center back, and as we worked towards the front, we increased our elevation so that it became more of a concave. We then worked through with a little bit of a round layer, and now we're starting on the top. So the top is started with a center parting. You're going to make sure you stand on the side that allows you to point your scissor tips towards the front and your fingers towards the back. This will allow you to cut from shorter to longer, which is always nice. So, you're going to get your guideline from the back there. I'm going to use the points of my scissors, and I'm just going to continue to point.
And would this be good for fine curly hair?
Yes. And again, you've got to make sure that the client's wanting to have a little bit of a change, because you can see that there is some hair coming off, but when you look at the pre-dones, you can see that it looks like a fairly commercial bob. But it just gives a little bit more lift to everything, I find, because of the disconnection, and the movement's really quite nice too. So now I'm cutting, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm following the curvature of the head. I'm going to over-direct everything to the center, and I'm standing on the side that allows me to cut from short to long. Okay? What I mean from cutting short to long is I really just want to make sure that my scissor tips are pointing towards the front. And that'll allow me to start at the back where I can get my guideline and work to my longest point. I'm really excited to be here. I thank everybody for their positive encouragement. If you want to see more stuff like this or check out any of my work, you can find me here at Morrison & Co., which is my salon, or Tristan Morrison. Both have unique Instagram pages.
Leslie is saying she's all about the 90s flick.
Thanks, Leslie. Okay, so continuing to work. Really making sure that I take the time to do nice clean sections and over direct all the way to the center. Just pointing the hair. Coming in. And I don't want it perfect. I just kind of like the imperfection of it all. So, now if I was to cross-check this, what's going to happen is that it's going to look like a concave because I've taken essentially sections that run across the top of the head that are more vertical from where you're watching, over-directed in towards the center. I can't hold on to combs right now. Don't tell anybody that I didn't wash my comb. Over-directing towards the center. And so what happens is it turns into a concave. And as I go towards the front, it'll get longer and longer. There's your concave, and it will become disconnected again from that side. So what you get is you get a concave on the side and then a concave on the top, which creates, again, more movement.
Oh, sorry. Shahid would like to know if you could share the schedule for your live demos.
I don't have any scheduled as of yet. This is the last in the series, but I'm working with Tatum and other people to do some more. So just keep on checking my Instagram, which is where we post it, either on Morrison & Co. or Tristan and Morrison. I'm going to make sure that I'm standing on the side that allows me to point my scissors towards the front. Remember that. Scissors towards the front. Get my guideline from back there, and I'm going to use the points of my scissors. Okay, and I'm just coming in, taking nice size sections that I can control, over-directing towards the center so that it gets longer towards the outside. If you have any questions, please ask. It's really nice to be here. Anybody tuning in, I'm Tristan. We're here with Elevate and Neil. We're working on a really great disconnected bob and something that you can use right away in the salon. Okay. So again, combing the hair over towards the center. You want to point on the way out or close on the way out, sorry, when you're doing this. So it's on the way out, on the way out, on the way out. And if you notice, it helps when your thumb doesn't have to necessarily be in the hole, because then I can come more vertical. As soon as I start to go like this, it sometimes becomes more challenging. Whatever your comfort level is, there's so many different ways to approach cutting hair. And we hope that you like what we're offering on Elevate. Tatum's been doing a great job with the Elevate team and been tuning in and seeing some of my buddies like Billy and Matthew and Peter on. So it's really great to be here and be able to have the opportunity to share things that I'm passionate in, which is really about how to be successful in the industry and how to earn a great living doing what I love to do. Okay.
So Shahid is asking, what will be the difference if you do
So square instead of round, that's great. So you're going to get something that is a little bit heavier with the corner. This comes up longer, and it is round in the shape that comes through this way. So when you're talking about your shape, it goes from shorter to longer this way. If it was square, what would happen is you'd have a corner placed right here. And that corner in the back here would create less movement, right? Because you're cutting everything square and you're going to see a ledge of weight that sits over top. This is really going to be more translucent when I'm doing it with the round shape and the way that I'm over-directing with the disconnection. Okay, So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of a freehand in. And this is just to have a few little pieces of a fringe come through. And this mannequin's popping really quite a bit, but I'm just going to freehand a couple little pieces, and I'm just taking very small sections. It's a vertical section through the center, and then I'm taking just little subsections, and I'm not going to extend those past the center point of the eyebrow. And again, I just want looser, random pieces. Not many, just a few to give it a little bit of a fringe or that curtain feel. So again, for the fringe, I'm taking a vertical section in the center. I'm working slight diagonals, and I'm going to work those slight diagonals to about the middle of the actual eyebrow area.
Getting lots of hearts. Looks good, man. Hey, Tristan from Orlando.
Yeah.
Hi from Neil.
Nice to say hi to everybody and get to connect with them. Okay, so just to recap what we got here, I'm just going to shake this out a little bit, see how she looks. You know, when I practice, one of the things that I definitely like to do is I like to wet down my mannequin. I like to use conditioner to keep it soft, and I put a little bit of prep product in to start with. I use a little bit of the Nutriplenish oil just to leave it a little bit softer. If I'm going to practice, I want it to look good. So here's the finished result of what we're looking for. You can see it done on the blonde, and you can see it done on the brown. The blonde has been diffused with the diffuser. The brown has been more air dried. This is the sectioning pattern. So it started with a horseshoe section, a vertical section down the center back, and a diagonal section. We began through the back area here. We started on the left side. We worked with diagonal sections over directing to the previously cut section to produce something like that, which is graduation that gets longer towards the front. This panel here, we started on the left side and we pulled out, and it's completely disconnected. So disconnected means starting a new point in the haircut without the means of a guideline, used to just create more movement. So it's going to create a little bit more movement in the back area here. We over-directed to the previously cut section. As we hit about just behind the ear, we started to elevate that section into more of a concave. We worked that concave over towards the front, over-directing to the previously cut section. Our last panel of hair is the top here. We took this horseshoe down, we took vertical sections, and we over-directed them all the way to the center, which gave us another concave like this. So if I was going to finish this, but I'm not going to diffuse it, I'm just going to let it air dry, I would use a tiny bit of the texture tonic. I think product's really nice to have in and layer it in. This is pretty much good to go. It would be kind of either diffused or it would be air dried. If I was going to diffuse it, just some tips and tricks before we sign off on diffusing, because you can see the finished results. So again, here are the dryers that I keep in my kit. I either use a Carlux or my Dyson. These are my favorite dryers. I think Parlux is great for blow drying with a vest brush, a round brush. Pretty much all my brushes I use my Parlux, and I use this for diffusing, so just to give you guys a little bit of an idea. I'm going to diffuse. When I diffuse, I generally go on low wind with medium heat. And I'm a person that likes to essentially dry it until it's 100% dry. So I really like to let the diffuser do the work. I don't like to let the client leave with wet hair. That doesn't work well with me. And so I'm just going through and I'm diffusing. And I'm not going to diffuse the whole thing because you can see what it looks like right here. I'm really happy that everybody tuned in. It was great to hear from some friends like Leslie, Tracy, all these people, Tatum. I really appreciate the support. Nice to hear from you as well, Peter. I hope you guys enjoyed the education. If you want to support the salon, it would really help me out. You can follow us at Morrison & Co. or you can follow me at Tristan Morrison. hopefully I hear from you if you have any questions on these haircuts, and I look forward to our next time together. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.